Asylum inmates trapped within raging vegetation, a dying Clayface who can barely maintain his human form, and a veteran Batman who is at the center of this horrific incident. This is the world of Batman Darkest Night, a fan-made Batman story created by artist David Paget, envisioned as a darker take on the Batman mythos. Batman Darkest Night dives deep into the psyche of the character, exploring a more brutal and violent Batman as he makes his way through a heavily infected Arkham Asylum. Let's take a look at the terrifying world of Batman Darkest Night and its twisted reimagining of famous characters.
Welcome to Walking Fist.
Darkest Night follows a version of Batman who is 8 years into his career. This is a Batman who's become very disillusioned about the world and has become more violent and brutal since the start of his career. Batman has become so obsessed with his crusade that his life as Bruce Wayne is essentially null and void. He's become so violent that many of his allies have become wary of his drastic change, such as Jim Gordon, who's beginning to lose trust in him over time. His ex-lover Selina Kyle, who can no longer imagine a future where they can be together and has distanced herself from him. Alfred, who's terrified that Bruce may one day cross the line, and the civilians of Gotham City, who have now become terrified of Batman. The story begins with a bank robbery orchestrated by Two-Face, who in this story is currently in a gang war with Black Mask, who has forced Two-Face into a corner. The robbery is currently being televised to all of Gotham, and the GCPD and Batman arrive on the scene. Eventually, Batman manages to stop the robbery. However, his methods are brutal and out of control. Batman and the GCPD escort Two-Face back into Arkham Asylum, which is currently being run by a new psychiatrist, Dr. Hugo Strange, a man who is obsessed by the criminal mind, and especially Batman, who he studied for many years and will go to extreme lengths when it comes to his experiments and forms of therapy. When Batman first arrives at Arkham Asylum, Hugo Strange enacts a plan to both study the Caped Crusader and break him mentally. Hugo Strange locks down the asylum, trapping both Batman and potentially Harvey Bullock within it. Not only did Hugo trap Batman within the asylum, but he also released every inmate within. Even worse, Hugo releases an experimental virus into the asylum as well, infecting everyone within, including Batman. Being a modified version of Joker's toxin, this new virus amplifies the aggression of anyone infected and seems to warp their eyes in many interesting ways. With an already violent Batman getting infected, can he resist his violent urges, or will he let it take hold and break his one rule? The virus does not only make one angry, certain individuals infected also seem to go through significant alterations to their bodies, such as Batman's more superpowered rogues gallery. Characters like Clayface experience the worst of the virus's effects. After becoming infected, his appearance shifts as if he was a liquid magnet. The worst part, Clayface has almost no control over the forms he takes, as if the virus has completely destabilized his very existence. Even maintaining a human form has become almost impossible, requiring absurd amounts of concentration. Once a power that was essentially a gift has become a death sentence with no way of escaping it. Poison Ivy experiences the most drastic changes due to the virus. At first, Poison Ivy appears normal, like any person you see on the street. However, once the virus takes hold and roots itself in her cells, her biology, and flows through her blood, Poison Ivy changes into something horrific. Poison Ivy here seems to have been corrupted by the virus. Her skin has become a sickly green, almost like it's rotting, and her eyes have become pitch black. Poison Ivy seems like a demon spawned from humanity's nightmares. Even the plants she controls seem to be rotting, more like weeds and fungus than the pristine and beautiful plants we've mostly come to associate with her powers. This Poison Ivy is a twisted avatar of Mother Nature, come to rid the world of humanity in the most gruesome ways possible. In the story, Batman is tracking Poison Ivy down for a specific purpose. Maybe it's to stop her dangerous rampage, but maybe it's because Batman has learned a secret of her transformation. Maybe she's the only one who can develop a cure to the virus, as she seems to resist it. Luckily, Poison Ivy won't be hard to find. After her transformation, she's turned the asylum into a strange and twisted garden, as inmates are trapped within her rotting vegetation, becoming a part of nature as their bodies, skin, and clothing rot away and become trapped within the walls. Poison Ivy truly has no care for human life. Poison Ivy has made sure that her fungus-like vegetation spreads until it has taken root over the asylum. Throughout Batman's journey, he comes across members of his famous rogues gallery, the most violent of criminals who are so dangerous that they are locked up within the most heavily guarded areas of the asylum. And when this virus takes hold, they are by far the most dangerous individuals in the asylum. One of these criminals is Victor Zsasz, a serial killer who creates tally marks for each one of his victims, and based on the amount carved into his flesh, he's the incarnate of evil. When he's infected by the virus, Zsasz becomes even more twisted and delusional. Believing that he was sent by a higher power, Zsasz becomes a cult leader within the asylum's morgue, leading a group of demented devotees. One other criminal locked within the asylum is the most dangerous one of all, the Joker, one of the most psychotic criminals to ever exist. And with the virus amplifying his aggression, he's never been more unpredictable and dangerous. This Joker is not as over-the-top and theatrical as what we've come to expect. Instead, Joker is a lot more nihilistic and bitter towards the world, and laughs at society's rules, and his mission is to reveal its hypocrisy. Hugo Strange uses Joker as the ultimate tool to break Batman mentally, and this is by exposing his biggest secret. The Joker uncovers Batman's true identity. However, the uncovering of Batman's identity is not a huge moment. Instead, to Joker there's a slight form of disappointment, realizing that Batman is just a little boy who never got over the death of his parents. However, despite learning his identity, Joker refuses to publicly release the information, still wanting to continue his fun and twisted game. There were other members of the Rogues Gallery present in the film, such as Man-Bat and even Mr. Freeze, who in this story has a very small role and only really engages in a brief conversation with Batman. Unfortunately, not much else is known about the story of Blackest Night. Many of the bits and pieces we do know were generously shared by David Paget. We may not know much about the story, but the little we do know paints the picture of an incredibly dark and terrifying Batman story that reimagines Batman's world in new and twisted ways.